This is a Blairing Out with Eric Blair show coming at you from the 2017 Vans Warped Tour, and I'm here with Pyn Doll of the Barbed Wire Dolls.
Eric Blairing Out.
You know what's funny is that so many people are coming up to me and they're like, oh man, you gotta see this band Barbed Wire Dolls. Have you ever heard of them? Oh my gosh, they're the greatest band in the world. I'm like, been there, done that, got the t-shirt, you know?
You are the first that did stories on us, the very first. Not only that, you did a half-hour TV show on us, you did all these things. Yeah, you're the first, Eric, and you're awesome.
Thank you. You guys have the new album out. We discussed it last time we talked. You guys were recording it, and it's kind of blown up.
Well, you know, it's I don't know, it's just the time. Everyone's going back to like something real. Like a lot of the bands on this tour use playback and click tracks and playback tracks, and it's so funny because we're just straight ahead rock and roll. Everyone's going back to that, and I think that's the key. Is that I mean, all these people are telling us, the bands, the labels, are like, you know, it's going back to real, raw, and aggressive, and our album, you know, our albums are all just real. I mean, we do them in 2 days. You know, who does albums in 2 days anymore? And our new album, it's a little softer than our other albums, but that's because we recorded in Joshua Tree Desert at the studio of the guitarist of Iriel's death metal, days after the Paris attacks that happened to his band. That happened there, and so it was definitely melancholic, and we, you know, there's a lot of energy that went into that album that was based on how we felt about the world. So, but you know, the lyrics is like a knife, you know, cutting through to the soul, and so that's what's also important.
Ice has said in an interview recently that "Rub My Mind" is kind of like an instruction manual in how to survive in the new world. Okay, in what way is it? Like, what can I take away? Tell me some of the songs, and what can I take away from those songs?
Well, first off, she's probably saying that because when she was 14, she was suicidal, and she was about ready to attempt suicide. And she thought about it at the end and said it was a selfish thing to do to her family. And she put on some music, and that changed her life. So, you know, this is something I didn't even know for a long time. But when this album came out, based on what happened to the Paris attacks, going to record at Joshua Tree Desert at Eagles Death Metal Studio, Dave's, all these different lyrics came out, and there's a song about the suicide, surviving it, If I Fall. There's a song about, you know, giving up, and all these things that happen about the world. And it, even though it's a very, I don't know what the word may be, melancholic, but there's a positive message on every song that you can overcome, you can persevere, if you know, and find that inner freedom, which will create an outer freedom. This world is a hell. There's no doubt, and it's not going to change. Only thing that can change is you inside. So be the light inside, and it'll change outside. And that's pretty much the album. Really gives you an instruction manual, because it goes through all the pain that the soul is going through right now in these time and days. You know.
Do you trust the media?
Well, I trust you, and I've never dealt with any media that's bad yet, so I'll continue trusting. Oh, as far as like press, I'm talking about the media. Oh no, once 100% zero. I don't trust.
So how can you trust that these events that they're telling you happened really happened?
I don't believe them.
Okay.
There's a certain thing that you can understand. If you're aware of the world, you can know what's truth, and you can see through the bullshit left and right. I mean, we know how much bullshit there is in there. So. Yeah, and that's part of the reason the album is like pointing that out. Like, I mean, there's a song called Contract, and oh my God, if you read the lyrics and hear that song, it's pretty scary.
Do you think that you guys essentially were forced to mature lyrically, or do you think it was a natural progression?
Natural progression. I mean, we do this for ourselves first and foremost, and if we're not inspired to, you know, our music, we can't put it on every day. There's no fun going out and play. Like, we played a different set list every day on Warped Tour because we can't play the same set list like a lot of people do. It's just like life. You're a baby, then you're a teenager, then you're 21, you realize you're on your own, and then you're older and you have kids or whatever. It's the same thing. I mean, we're not the band that's going to have the same album every year after year after year after year. Our live show will always be kick-ass. It'll be always thrilling, but the music's going to change because we're changing. And, you know, based on Lemmy, for example, just to give you a story, he told us, don't change for anyone, and write the music you love. Don't do it for the fans or the media or anything. You do it for yourself. Now, he pretty much kept a straight line of rock and roll, but he did a lot of stuff that was beautiful, acoustic music and blues stuff. But he still did what he wanted, you know. And so we'll always ask ourselves, what would Lemmy do? I mean, we're proud of our albums, so you know, if no one likes it, we don't care. But at the same point, the people that do care about it, awesome. And we're getting great response from all the fans out there, the Street Generation. They're loving it. They're playing it on repeat. And they're liking the softest songs, which is crazy. But those are the songs that have the most passion.
One of the things that always comes to mind when I think about our early meeting is how warm, caring, and loving you guys were as people. Just as humans, you were very endearing. You seem the same.
I'm glad you feel that way, but it takes a like person to understand that. You know, I mean, you feel that because you're like that. And a lot of people out there want honesty, authenticity, and, you know, I mean, Isis is a rock star. She goes out there and she's a rock star, but she's not like, look at me, I'm a rock star. She's just, that's who she is. I mean, she'll start dancing, she'll do whatever she wants, and that's the beauty. And you know, once again, we always go back and say, well, Lemmy was the idol. He was the standard of rock and roll. I mean, he was a huge rock star, right? But he was the most humble person. He wouldn't, you know, anytime he could, he would talk to anybody. Absolutely. You know, and that's the beauty. And I mean, and I think all the great artists, usually the ones that last and go down in history, are humble. I mean, you know, I've met Robert Plant, I've met a lot of people, and they're all humble. You know, they don't sit there and say, I'm fucking Led Zeppelin, man. I mean, they could, but you already know that, so they don't need to, there's nothing to prove.
Well, I think you get to a point in your life where I love what I do, but it's work. It's not about the fame. It's not about the glamour. It's not about the money. What really makes you happy at the end of the day? Getting up on stage and rocking people.
That's it. It's so much work. It's so much compromise, this and that. But we choose it. So it's not a compromise. It's not work. And it's an obligation. Because you know what? You know, we had a fan in Seattle, Portland, who came, a young girl who wanted to commit suicide. She discovered us and she told Isis, you know, I love your interviews and you give me this powerful message. I'm sure that happens a lot, but the point is, it touched her because Isis was the same age when she was that way. So it's an obligation, but at the same point, you can't fake it. I mean, as long as we're enjoying it, we'll keep doing it because no one wants to see us go up there and run through the numbers. And you know, a lot of bands do that and it shows. And they just keep, you know, and you know, it's life. I mean, you know, it's everything. It's relationships. I mean, we have a relationship with our whatever size audience it is. It's a relationship we share, and that's important, you know. And the whole talk of this whole tour from all the bands has been unity, 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 and it's true. You remember Rock for Unity back in our old days? Yeah. We tried to get bands to be united and to help each other, and you know, a lot of egos come in, and you know, and it's all competitive. Music is not competitive. It should not be. You know, who cares if you're number one or number two, whatever, you know, blah, blah. It's about the music, and there's no way you'll last if you don't enjoy your own music.
A lot of the people that compete or backbite or gossip about you are people that aren't confident in what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, having haters is just as good as having people that love you. I mean, you can't be great if you're medium, you know, more lukewarm water. I mean, so obviously, the more people that love you, more people are going to hate you. But, you know, that's fine. Because usually the haters show up at our show, you know, want to throw eggs on us, and then they say, you're fucking great. And I'm like, yeah, thanks, bro. You know, it's like, great. You know, and they get really, I mean, Motorhead bangers come to our show saying, what is this? Lemmy signed you, what is this crap? You know, they come there doubting, and they walk away buying everything and loving us. And we're their musical child. They're like, Lemmy left you. We're going to support you till death. And that's like, I got shivers. That's the honor, is when Motorhead fans come and accept us, usually after they see us. I understand, because the music is not like Motorhead, and our live shows not like Motorhead, but it's rock and roll. And Lemmy told us, you know, I remember because Isis was saying, you know, this and that, and he's like, you're the new generation. You know, it's like, when you go on stage, I don't want you to be embarrassed about this. You say we're Bar Dolls and we play rock and roll. And Isis didn't say that for 2 years until like halfway through Warped Tour, because she's like, oh my God, we are rock and roll. I'm going to start saying it. And she started saying it, and she says it with confidence and authenticity, you know, and we're not backing down.
Joshua Tree experience.
Okay, Raja Luna is like this sanctuary in the Joshua Tree Desert. And, you know, Queen of Stone Age, Kaias, all the desert rock movement came out of there. It's just this epic, it's David Catching's house. And it's this magical place. We were given 2 days to record our album, which is great. And we had to leave because they had a guest coming in the next day. It was right before Thanksgiving. And they said, "Oh, you got to go." So as we're leaving, they said, "We want to invite you, but we don't want to push any boundaries right now. But it's Iggy Pop and Josh Homme. They're coming here to record post-pop depression." And that was like, as we were driving an hour away, and I was like, "Oh, you should have told me. I opened up with Iggy. I'm friends with him. He would have loved to, seen us again." But I was like, I'm not gonna turn around and ask. But yeah. So being there, you have to be invited there. Number one, just like Albini. We record with Steve Albini. You can pay him $1 million and he'll say no if he doesn't like your band. So recording Rancho Luna is an honor because he invited us to record there. So, it will be our piece of art. I mean, it's a piece of art. Anything that recorded out of Rancho Luna is a piece of art.
How much peace of mind did you have during the recording?
0. I mean, literally, Dave had texted me saying, "Okay, you're coming in, whatever, Friday to record." I don't know what day it was. And 10 minutes later, Krash, our drummer, goes, "Oh my God, check what's happening." The pairs of texts were happening. He literally texted as he was on stage, actually. He just put his phone down. So 3 days later, I get a text from Dave saying, "You're still coming in to record this weekend." And I wrote back, "Are you sure you want us to come?" The world was like, whoa. He's like, "The music must go on. They can't take that away." So we just got so inspired. So we wrote like 6 songs in 3 days. We go there. First thing we go there is there's like, what do you call it? Like vigilantes that support America hiding with shotguns saying, "Look, if anybody comes here, I don't know you, I'm gonna fucking shoot." There was protection already, and through the desert people, because they love that place. It's a very sanctuary. And so it wasn't uncomfortable. Even walking outside, we were wondering, are we safe? What's going on? This is like this terrorist act on equals to death. They went into hiding, and I'm guessing most people thought they were hiding it in the desert. Well, they weren't. We were there. So it was a very scary place. And not only that, but Rolling Stone and Spin, everybody contacted us immediately because we had posted, we're going to Rancho Luna, to record, and they were contacting us saying, "Can you give us a story?" I'm like, no, you're not welcome here. If we drive up there, can we? Like, no. So it was like lockdown. Like we walked to the back. We were always nervous wherever we were, and
So that's trapped in the grooves then of this vinyl.
Yeah, one of the songs called "We Just Did It" right there, and I just sang it right off the bat and just made up all these different things called "Waiting to Be Lost." It's the last song on the album. It's just a groove, and it's a 7-minute groove, and she just sings her heart out, waiting to be lost. It's like, are we going to survive this day and age of this, what's going on in the world? Is music going to have enough power to, reach people's souls, to unite and to be free again? Is there any freedom left on this planet?
What's Iggy Pop like? How did he treat you? Tell me about his personality.
It was a few years ago, before Bar Dolls. I was in another band, and I get a call from the promoter saying, "Oh my God, it's the first date of his U.S. tour, 20 dates. His band just canceled. Can you get here in an hour to open up for Iggy Pop?" And I was like, "Yes." So I called everybody. We get there. I was an alcoholic then. I'm a drug addict, crazy. So I was just drunk by then. I get on stage. My phone rings, I remember, and I picked up my phone, and I'm like, "I'm opening up for Iggy Pop." My friend's like, "Yeah, bullshit." I'm like, "No, seriously." And he didn't believe me, so I like, "Am I opening up for Iggy Pop?" And the whole crowd screamed, "Yeah!" And so I smashed my phone, and we just rocked the fuck out. We just fucking destroyed. And I looked up because Iggy was watching us the whole show. I didn't meet him yet. So I walked backstage after the show, and he's getting ready to go on, and his beautiful, tall wife comes up to us and says, "You were fantastic," and I'm like, "Thank you." And he's like, "You have to meet, I forget his real name now. I always call him Iggy. And she called him by his real name. And so he comes in there, I'm like, "Whoa, he's so short, and he's like tight, and he's like, "You were really great. Do you want to do the tour with me, 20 dates, starting tomorrow, we go?" And I was like, "Are you serious?" He's like, "Yeah, you can do the tour, the whole tour." So I ran back, and I called, I had just taken a job being a teacher. First time ever. Big job. I got a job as a teacher, and I called the headmaster, and I said, "Look, I just got this job, but I got this opportunity to go tour with Iggy Pop." He says, "Yeah, we'll sue you if you leave." And I was like, are you serious? Like, yeah, we'll sue you. And I was like, so I walked back after the show. I go to Iggy, and he's like, you doing it? And I was like, I can't. I was like, what? He's like, I got this job. And he's like, you're an idiot. And so I gave him a lucky duck, and he said, I'll take that, thank you. If you ever want a gig, you let me know when you're serious. And then that was it, and he walked away.
Okay, and then Robert Plant.
Robert Plant, little crazy story. I was recording with Steve Albini. We're doing our album, and the phone rings, and Steve goes, can you answer it? I'm like, I'm not gonna answer the phone. He's like, answer the phone. So I answer the phone. I go, electrical audio. And he's like, yeah, is Steve available? Whatever. And I go, hold on. I go, Steve, there's someone. He's like, who is it? And I said, who is it? He's like, well, just tell him to get on the phone. So he's like, just talk to him. So I was like, okay. So I started talking. I was like, he said, we'll be here in a minute. And he starts asking me about my band, this and that. I start telling him, oh, this and that, Barbara Dolls, blah, 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 blah. And he's talking, oh, blah, blah, blah. And he starts talking. He's real nice. He's like, when are you playing? You're going to be here? And then so I go, and so then Steve comes up, gets on the phone, hey, Robert, blah, 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 blah. And they're talking. And then I get off the phone. He gets off the phone. And about 20 minutes later, Steve turns around and says, oh, by the way, anytime you want to go see Robert Plant, he will give you guest list, backstage guest list. I was like, what do you mean Robert Plant? I go, that's Robert Plant? And he's like, are you serious? I was talking to Robert Plant? I fucking love Zeppelin.
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't know. He's like, yeah. So we found out when he was doing a show, got on, went backstage, and he said, I love your album, you're great. And he just shook our hands and talked for about 5 minutes, and that was it. And I was like, what a great guy.
What is it like for you now actually arriving?
Oh,
you have arrived.
Yeah, that's all relative, as they say.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, how they say like music turns in every cycles, whatever. To me, Nirvana was that great change in '91, and things change, and then it hasn't happened since. I mean, people have tried. There's a lot of good bands that have tried, but it's finally turning around, and I just can't believe that. I'm still like amazed that the music out there is on radio, and it's all changing. It's all just collapsing because it's built on a fake foundation, and social media is directing people to fans directly. They're making the choices now, and when they do polls for radio, the polls literally tell the radio stations, you suck. I'd rather hear the stuff from the 90s or 80s than what you're playing now. And so they don't know what to do, but they're still afraid to sign real bands. And whatever, we're not worried about it.
Pyn Doll, it's been great talking to you, man.
Thank you, Eric.
All right, this is the Blairing Out with Eric Blair show with Pyn Doll of the Barbed Wire Dolls at the 2017 Warped Tour. Signing off.
The Blairing Out show.